Hi everyone, thanks for watching another video. Today we're going to be making a scabbard for this horseshoe knife. It's a little hand forged knife, it's pretty neat. I'm going to start off by making the pattern. It's just an 1.5 inch wide ruler. I use that as if it were the belt. To get my angles, you can see there at about what angle it'll ride on the belt. I'm just tracing around the outside of the knife, kind of laying out a pattern here. This is some heavier cardstock paper. It definitely does help, other than using regular old printer paper. Now I'm marking my holes where I'm going to cut for the belt to slide through, and all the way around. And I'm going to punch those holes out. That's going to be where the top and bottom of the belt will ride. After I get those punched down, I'm going to draw some lines to connect them. And then I'm going to cut those lines out. I'm going to make a stitch line here. That's where my stitches will go. They'll be recessed down into the leather. That way if you're rubbing up against something, you're not going to wear out your stitching. And now it's time to start drawing the pattern on there. I'm going to do a little floral pattern with one flower and a leaf, and then I'm going to do a little painting on it too, so stand by for that. Whenever I'm drawing these in, I make it a pretty rough sketch on there, and then after I go to carve it, I'll clean it up with my swivel knife. All these lines, instead of trying to sit there and make every line perfect, you can just clean them up whenever you do your cutting. And that's what we're doing right now. This is a swivel knife and cutting in all these flower petals and all these vines. Now it's time to start stamping on it. This little flower center, gonna give it a whack in there. Go just a little deeper with it. Now we're gonna kind of start shading around that flower center. It's gonna make that flower center look like it's seated down inside that flower. Next, I'm going to use that beveler right there that you see me doing right there, and that's going to make kind of give it a little bit more of a 3D. Instead of being a flat pattern, it'll raise those vines up and kind of adds depth to your carving. I'm gonna give a few finishing cuts on this thing and then do some background work. But now's a good time just to let you know if you ever in the market for some patterns, or I make these scabbards here and sell them, and got some knives up on the website as well. It's bbrosleather.com. It's the letter B-R-O-S leather.com. You can go check some stuff out on there. We have wallets, belts, little notebooks, all kinds of stuff on there, so be sure and check that out. This is the backgrounder that I was talking about a little earlier. It kind of breaks up some of that and adds a little texture to it. I hope you guys can hear me alright. I am got a little cold right now, and actually in a deer blind right now as well. I was just trying to get this YouTube video out, and I like to upload every Monday, so I was trying to keep my streak alive. So hopefully I can get it uploaded. I don't have much service, but I'm gonna do my best. Now we're gonna paint it, and these paints, I don't use them full strength. I'll water them down. It's just an acrylic paint, but water it down a little bit, and that helps it penetrate into the leather. Now I got that flower painted, time to get the leaf. I'm gonna paint it green. Do the same thing, just kind of water that paint down a little bit, thin it out. You have to go over it a few times, but it's not too big of a deal. Now I'm gonna let that dry. If I can let it dry for 4 or 5 hours at least, that's fine. Sometimes I like to go overnight, but I'm gonna smear a little olive oil on it, add some life back to the leather, make it last a heck of a lot longer. Once again, let that sit for 4 or 5 hours at least. It likes to stay on top of that paint, so really gotta let it soak in. Now I'm gonna put some antique on it. That kind of takes a little of the vibrancy away from the paint. I kind of like the way that turns out. Now I'm gonna make the back cover and the welt. Since this is for a straight scabbard or straight knife, what I have to do is make a welt on there, and that's gonna protect the stitching from the knife cutting. And I'm sure you guys have had a knife scabbard where you cut the stitching on it, and most likely it didn't have a welt in there, or it wasn't tight enough. But that's what this piece is here, and I'm gonna scab down the tops of them. That way there's just a nice smooth transition. Now I'm going to glue the welt down to the top piece, the main body. After I get that glued on, now I'm going to glue it to the back piece. And once all that glue dries, it's ready to sew. I did forget to add my maker's mark to it, and I already put some glue on it. I just wet that down, hammered on there. Got a little glue on my stamping block, but that's alright. Now we're going to get sewing it. Like I said earlier, we got that little recessed line for our thread to ride inside of to protect it. I'm going to cut all that excess off the sides there. Once I get that all taken off, it's time to edge it. Using that edge beveler on it. I like to use the biggest I can, so it gives those edges a nice real rounded look. I hate to see them, those square sides on them. It just doesn't look as finished to me. After I get those done, it's time to slick those edges. All I do is just wet it first. Then I have a little canvas cloth there. Just rub those edges down and really put some little elbow grease into them, and it'll slick down real quick. After I do that, I got this little elk antler here and kind of do the same thing over it. You go find you an antler somewhere and buff on it, sand it down so it's real smooth, and it works real good for that. I like to polish up where the belt runs through as well. It not only does it polish them up, but it also opens them up a little bit. These can sometimes be a little snug to get to fit on your belt. If you open those up, it seems to help quite a bit. I'm gonna wet the backside so I can get it to form on that knife. Put a little oil on it so I don't want any rust on it. Try to peel those ears back as far as I can. Just like I said earlier, try to help you slide your belt through there as easy as possible. And try to mold that thing to the knife so it has a good firm home whenever you stick it in there. Don't lose it. This one sits down in there far enough. There we go. That's the finished product. I think they go pretty well together. Turned out real nice. Thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind, just please subscribe and hit that little bell. I like to try to upload every Monday at 4. Thanks very much.